To all students, today we are going to start our Commerce 12th, the subject of Secretarial practice, which is the first topic we are going to study in this e-learning program. So first of all, the first topic is the corporate finance. In this corporate finance, the finance for every business, the organization and for every firm, first of all we need the fund, finance, the money. So finance is nothing but it's related with the money and money management. So the Henry Ford is said that money is arm or leg, use it or lose it. Definitely, as per our human body, the finance is blood in the organization. So suppose we use it very properly, so it is definitely used and give the more result to the organization and as well as the profit also. So that's why the money and the finance. What is the exactly meaning of corporate finance? So we suppose when see that the corporate finance deals with the raising and using of finance in the corporation. So the finance is nothing but raising, how to raise the finance and how to utilize the finance, because in organization use of fund is properly, so it is give the more maximum returns to the organization. So that's why in business organization, in the commerce field, the utilization of fund is very important. So also it is said that the corporate finance is also include the financial planning, study of capital market, money market and share market. So in corporate finance, it is not only the money management, but also it is study about, it is included the point of financial planning, how to use the money, how to invest the money and how to manage the money. Then study of capital market, as we know that in the company when raise the finance or any kind of money, so it is nothing but raise the finance through the capital market. So in capital market, raise the fund for long term period, and long term period, for that we need the equity share capital, preference share capital and other many more sources through which we are raise the finance. Then money market, it is given the short term money to the organization, which is used for the day to day expenses for the trading purposes, and as well as share market. So many more people are using invest their money in the share market. So that's why we have to be attract to them, and that's why the share market also is included in the corporate finance. So when we suppose to be the next slide, so these are the following two decisions are basis for the corporate finance. So here we can see that this is the financing decision. So this financing decision is very important. In this financing decision, the planning is given about how to manage the money, how to invest the money and how to raise the money. And investment decision is concerned about when the company raise the fund, how to make investment for optimum utilization of all resources, and it gives the more returns to the organization and as well as to the shareholder. Why shareholder? Because shareholders are investing money in the organization. That's why we have to give returns in the form of dividend. So that's why it is utilized. It has to be utilized in very proper way. Okay, so that's why these two decisions are very important, and these decisions are taken by the finance manager. So importance of corporate finance. The next point is importance of the corporate finance. This corporate finance is very useful to the organization as well as to the financial manager. So as we know that financial manager is take the decision about finance. So it is very useful to him for the helps in decision making. As we know that to the finance manager, he has to take the number of decisions about finance, he is coordinating to the all department, the marketing, production, finance and other inventory management, human resource management. So he supply the fund to this organization. So whatever the decisions are he taken, so as per the market situation, so that time the corporate finance is very useful. Then helps in, second is the helps in capital raising. Definitely the capital formation is one of the very important decision for the organization and to the finance manager. So that time how much the capital is required to the organization, he deciding the finance manager. So he has to decide the equity capital ratio, equity and debt capital ratio, and as per capital budgeting, capital structure. These are the number of decisions he has to take, and that time the corporate finance is very useful. And how to raise, there are various sources to raise the finance. He can prefer the share market, as well as go through the term finance, the term deposit, and as well as bank loan also. The number of sources are there through which that time the corporate finance is useful. Then helps in research and development. Definitely it help for the research is very lengthy process, and it is an intellectual process, and we need a more finance. Suppose we want to make innovation in the organization, that's why we have to make a research. Research is nothing but given the more importance, more creativity to the organization for the development, because we are stand in the competitive era, and that's why we have to be know about research and development, and for it the finance is very important. Next is helps in smooth running business firms. Definitely without blood human body cannot be work. As it is business organization is cannot be run without the finance. So that's why for the smooth functioning of the organization we have to need a plan, a best plan through which the business organization can be run very properly. That's why the corporate finance is very important. Managing risk, definitely as we know that today we are facing a very severe problem of the COVID-19, so it is affected to the whole international economy, as well as these risks are managing by the corporate finance for the future anticipation period, and that's why we have to make management for it, and this corporate finance is very useful to the organization. So next is the promotes expansion and diversification. As we know that in the competitive era we are facing so much problems, and that's why we need a development, we need the diversification, we need a expansion. Suppose we are capturing the new markets, for that we need a more fund for the expansion purpose. Then next is the replace old asset. As per the new innovation and new fashion and trends, the new modernization is there, we are going to stand in the global competition, and that's why new technology, new advanced technologies are comes, and we have to replace with the outdated asset which are not useful, which are not recent, and recent asset are very useful to increase the efficiency of the organization, and that's why we need a corporate finance. So finance is useful to the replacing the old asset with the new upgraded asset. Next is the payment of interest and dividend. It's very important, as we know that the company and business organization is take the loan from the banks, is taken the term deposit from the people in the form of public deposit, as well as from the shareholder. There is a large and huge investment, so that's why we have to make the repayment in the form of to the shareholder the dividend, and to the bank in the form of interest. So that's why we have to use the fund in very optimum and very great manner. And the next is and last is payment of taxes and fees. Definitely we are a part of the society, and we have the social responsibility to pay the taxes regularly as per the prescribed government rules and regulations, and as well as we have to pay the so many fees like to the registrar of the companies. Okay, so that's why here it's all the activities we need a corporate finance. It means it is a great, the corporate finance play a very vital role, very significant role in their life, and that's why the corporate finance is very useful to the business organization. We are going to study about the next point, the capital requirement. The capital requirement. So for every organization need the fund. So it has a specific ratio, and that ratio is considered in the form of two. The first is, we can see that here the capital requirement in the form of, first of all, the capital, fixed capital, and second is the working capital. So these two names are indicating to us what is exactly meaning of the fixed capital. It is a name that indicating us. So the capital is required in the fixed and working capital. So exactly what is the exactly meaning of fixed capital? So we can see that here The fixed capital is the capital which is used for the buying fixed asset which are used for a longer period of time in the business. Definitely fixed asset, it means fixed. It is used for the long term period in the organization, and we have to make a more and huge investment. So, whatever the ratio of the organization of the capital, above from that some division is part of the fixed capital, some division is a part of working capital. So, as we know that this capital is not for the resale, it is used for the lifetime of the organization. So, that is why it is very important. So, we can see that in the fixed capital, what are the examples are there? First is plant, as we know that we have to purchase the plant. Then machinery, for the production process we need the machinery which is more updated and more. Building, for the when we supposed to establish the plant, we need a building. For the construction purpose we have to make the more investment. Then furniture, definitely for the manufacturing unit we need a furniture. Then computer for the recent activity, fixture, loose tools, all these are included in the fixed asset, a fixed capital. So, we have to make investment. So, this is the nothing but meaning of the fixed capital. Let us learn about the what are the exactly factors affecting on fixed capital requirement. Definitely when we need the capital, fixed capital, which factor is important to consideration of the fixed capital. So, first point is nature of business. What kind of nature of business? Suppose there is a trading organization, we need a less capital. We need a less capital, but suppose there is a manufacturing organization, public utilities organization, we need a huge fixed capital, because there is a lots of activities are there, production process are there, and that is why we need a more fixed capital. Second, next point is size of business. Suppose the small organization, definitely there is a less fixed capital is necessary. If suppose there is a large organization, there is a more fixed asset, we need a more fixed asset, that is the fixed capital. Next is the scope of the business. Suppose that business is running very successfully and that organization need a more capital for the running of the organization. So, fixed capital is very necessary. Then next is the acquisition of old asset. Definitely in the recent era, every organization is now working for the organization. So, that is why we need a more recent machinery, recent or technology, and for that technology we have to be invest the more fixed capital. It means we have to replace the old asset with the new asset which is more upgraded. Next is the international conditions. As we know that today we are facing the more severe problem of the COVID-19. So, everyone is maintaining the social distancing. So, why these conditions are created? These are one kind of risk. So, that is why we have to be maintain the fixed capital. Suppose market condition is very good, international condition is good. So, that is why that time we need a fixed capital. So, these are some of the problems through which we have to maintain the fixed capital. The next is the trend in economy. Suppose in economy the trend is very good, the boom period is there. So, we need a less capital, less fixed capital. So, that is why trend is also very important. The next is the population need. Today's population is requiring more and more demands, and for the fulfillment of this demand we have to maintain the fixed capital. So, fixed capital is how is it important. Then next is a consumer preferences. Now today the consumers wants the home delivery, and for the home delivery we have to maintain the more huge fixed capital. Without fixed capital we cannot be possible to maintain the business organization. And last is the competitive factor. As we know that every organization is stand in the competitive period, and as well as global competition. This is not a regional or local problem, local competition. These are the very huge competition. So, to stand in this competition we need a fixed capital. So, these are some of the factors it is factors affecting on fixed capital. So, let's next point. So, that is the definition of working capital. As we know that this is the second part. So, for every organization working capital is very important, just like a fixed capital. So, the meaning of this working capital. So, here we can see that working capital is used to carry out the day-to-day business organization. Just like Fixed capital we invest at a time, but the working capital need for the day-to-day business transactions. So for the specially trading organization need a large amount of working capital. So that's why it is the asset purchase for the short term period. So working capital is also known as circulating capital. Why is it circulating? Because it is continuously circulate through the year, and that's why it is known as the circulating capital. Okay, exactly the meaning, it means when we study about a working capital, in working capital is nothing but related with the current assets and current liabilities. Some authority says that the working capital is excess of current asset over current liabilities. In every organization related with a working capital, the current assets and current liabilities. Current assets stands for the 1 year, and current liabilities are also related with the 1 year. So that's why it is a very short term period. So in the working capital, if suppose there is excess of current asset over current liabilities, that is the working capital condition is very good. So that is why here working capital is important, and that the working capital we can take the example of cash, gold, shares, debenture and bonds. These are purchasing we are for the short term period, and that's why these are two capital is very important. So now student, we are going to see the next point, that is we can see that this is the working capital cycle. So here we can see that there is a cash first of all, and this cash is now going to be sold in a credit. It means here cash production process is going on, and we are going to sell that particular goods and on credit basis, and then it is inventory, and then it is given to the customer, and these are the debtors. It is given to the returns in cash form. So this is continuously going on, and that's why it is known as the working capital. So when we supposed to be the next slide, so this slide is given to information detail explanation about the working capital. This is a cycle flow of the working capital. There are inventories, and these inventories are included in the production process. Here sales is processed on, and then it is receivable. It means we are sell the goods on credit basis. So now the cash is now receivable, not received. Then in this between gap, we are going to collection of the cash, and then collection, it means this is the converted into the cash, and this cash utilized in the operation of the, it means nothing but in production process. Again this production process, it is nothing, production process converted into the inventories, that is called as a finished goods, and these finished goods again comes in the sales, again in the receivables, again in the collection, again in the converted into a cash. So this is the continuously process is going on, and that's why it is called as a cycle flow of working capital. The next slide about that when we see, so this is the some factors affecting working capital requirement for every organization, whether it is small or big, the working capital is important. So this working capital, these are some of the factors are there. So first is the nature of business. Definitely, so as earlier we have seen the point in working fixed capital. So in that also the first factor is nature of business. This is the first factor, nature. What kind of business is there? Suppose there is a trading organization, we need a large amount of working capital, and suppose there is a public utility and manufacturing unit, we need a less working capital. So that's why it's depend upon the nature of the business. The working capital is depends. Size of the business, obviously whether it is small organization or big organization, for the big organization we need a large amount of working capital, and suppose there is a less, it means small organization, we need a less working capital. So it's depend upon the size. Volume of the sales, definitely volume, what in, it means what in quantity we are going to sell. Suppose we have a volume of the sale is big, so easily we are recovering the money, that's why we need a less working capital. Suppose volume of the sale is less, so we need a more working capital, because sales of volume is very important. Okay, and next point is a production cycle. Production cycle is concerned about whether it is, if suppose production cycle is lengthy, we need a more capital, we need a more working capital. If suppose production cycle is a short, so we need a less working capital. It means the production cycle is very important for the utilization of the working capital. Then business cycle. If suppose our business cycle is very lengthy and as well as it's very not complicated, so definitely we need a very less working capital. Suppose our business cycle is very lengthy, there are so much disturbance, there is very lengthy, so that time we need a very large amount of working capital. And next point is, student, the next point is the terms of purchases and sales. The terms, suppose the business organizations are maintaining very strict policy about purchase and sales, so that time we have to maintain the more working capital. It means there are less working capital, because purchases are on liberal basis, so definitely we need a more, and if there is a strict, there is a less working capital. That's why the terms are very important. Then next point is the credit control. It means for the every organization, when they are selling the goods to the to the wholesaler, to the retailer, that time they have to maintain the credit control policy. So credit, what kind of credit policy? So there is a liberal credit policy, definitely there is a need the more working capital. If there is a strict working capital, strict credit policy, there are more working capital is necessary. Then next point is very useful for the factor is important, the growth and expansion. For the growth and expansion, if suppose there is a company or any organization wants to the more expansion and growth, that organization, they need a more working capital. So working capital is play a very vital role. And next is the management ability. For every organization, management is responsible to make the decisions about finance. So if they have a more ability to take the proper decisions about finance, so they can use a proper utilization of the working capital in the organization, because it is a one kind of a unity, and that unity have to be considered as a management ability. And other, as we know that there is the last point, that is the external factor. These are external factors. There are a number of external factors are there, just like a government, politics, environment. These are some of the factors are affecting on the working capital. So this is the nothing but factors affecting on working capital. So we are going to see the next point. So that is the capital structure. So when we learn about a working capital and fixed capital, so working capital and fixed capital, nothing but consideration of the capital structure. So this capital structure is nothing but ratio of equity and debt capital, because suppose we utilize more equity capital, we have to pay the more dividend. Suppose we are using the more debt capital, we have to pay the more interest. So that's why there must be a ratio, there must be a coordination, there is a proper desired proportion is very important. If there is a no proportion, so definitely the organization can face the severe problem in future. So for estimating the future problems, marketing condition, the global condition, so that's why we need a proper capital structure that is included in the financial planning. And all this financial planning and decisions are taken by the finance manager. So let us start, we are going to study about this point, the capital structure. So this capital structure is nothing but, the structure means mix of various sources of funds in the desired proportion. It's very important, the mix of various sources of funds. So mix of various sources of funds in desired proportion. Desired means just like our own purposes. It's as per the business organization condition, because in organization we have to maintain the more cautious, and this cautiousness is useful in the capital structuring. So the R.H. Vessel it said that about a definition, the long-term sources of funds employed in the business enterprises. So capital structure is nothing but long-term sources of funds is employed in the business organization. It means, as we know that there are number of sources are there. It means first is the equity, it's called as owned capital. In the owned capital, it means debt equity ratio. Capital structure, it means debt equity ratio. It is a combination of the two capital, that is the first is the equity capital, that is called as owned capital, and second is the debt capital. In the equity, in the owned capital included the share capital and free reserve and surpluses, and in the debt capital there is included the it means borrowed capital, debentures, bonds, these are all bank loan, all these are included, that is stands for the borrowed capital. So it is a mixture, it is a proper combination of this capital structure. Let us learn about next point. So you can see this, these are some of the components of the capital structure. So in that these are components very important. So that's why we are able to stand the capital for the organization and formation of the capital. So we can see that first is very important capital, that is the equity share capital. This equity share capital is nothing but owned capital. We are stand the capital through the inviting the applications in the society to the people, and through which the people are investing in our organization. That's why these are people called as a shareholder. They are investing, that's why it's called as a owned capital. Okay, and we are given the returns in the form of dividend. Second, we can say that the preference share capital, it is a part of a capital, but it has a more preference are given in the returns of the dividend, and that's why it is known as the preference share capital. It means when the company earn the profit, so first of all preferences are given in the distribution of the dividend to the preference shareholder. Whatever they have rights to the equity shareholder, these rights are not given to the preference shareholder. They have a preferences to get the dividend in more manner in the preference share capital, as we learn in the 11th standard about equity share and preference shares. Okay. Then next is the retained earning. In the organization, every company, just like in our family also, we can see that whatever we have earning, whole and soul earning, we are not spending for the month expenses. Some part of the earning, our parents, our father is keep aside in the bank in the form of insurance and gold loan, anything they are keep aside for the future anticipation, because in future any problem, any condition, any risk will be arises. So that time that fund can be utilized for the good events or for the bad events. As it is in the business organization, retained earning means whatever the profit is earned by the organization, it is keep aside. It is known as the plowing back of profit. In the bad condition, for not only in the bad condition but also in the good condition also, that retained earning is used for the expansion, for the diversification, for the research, for the inventions, for the creativity, for everything that fund is utilized, that is known as the retained earnings. And the last is next is known as the borrowed capital. So borrowed capital is nothing but taken, it is an acknowledgement of debt capital. It is taken from the other organization. It is in the form of bank loan and it is in the form of the term loan. So and also it is a public deposit also. So it is on this borrowed capital we have to make the repayment to the people in the form of interest. So that's why here it is a borrowed capital also is the same time it's more important as per the equity share capital, preference share capital, retained earnings and borrowed capital. So that's why all these things are important for the capital formation and capital structure. So I hope so all the students have come to know about this point. In this whole PPT I have been presented the full unit, and in that unit if you have any doubts you can ask me and you can clear the doubts. Okay, so all the points are completed. I hope so you are living with very safely at home. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you very much.